Good morning, everyone. The service is about to start. Honor guards, can you please come to attention?
Teacher, attention! Point up!
Firefighter Dave Christiana will now sound the alarm bell, the last call.
Reset up!
Will everyone please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. We gather here today in remembrance of the lives lost in the horrific attacks that happened on September 11th and the lives lost during the 20 years of war that followed. On September 11th, 2001, I was in history class at Neshoba Tech when the TVs were turned on. We all watched in silence as the Twin Towers fell. That is a day I will never forget. Those of us who were old enough to witness that day will be forever changed. As we move forward into the future, we need to continue to pay respects and remember so that the future generations will always know the events of our past and the impacts they made on our country. As we spend this 20th anniversary paying homage to the many lives lost, remember how we came together as a country to help one another. It didn't matter who you were or where you were from. Police, fire, military, and civilians worked as one. We must continue to remember and show those who follow what happened and why we gather to remember Patriot Day. And now the Firefighters Prayer will be read by Fire Deputy Dan Britko.
O God, when I am called to duty, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life. Whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to fulfill my calling and give the very best in me to guard my community and protect everyone's property. If according to your will, I am called to eternal life with you, bless your loving power, my family, and all my friends. Amen.
Thank you. And now, Police Chief Mark Chambers will read the police officer's prayer.
Police officer's prayer. Lord, I ask for courage to face and conquer my own fears, courage to take me where others will not go. I ask for strength of body to protect others and strength of spirit to lead others. I ask for dedication to my job, to do it well, dedication to my community to keep it safe. Give me, Lord, concern for others who trust me and compassion for those who need me. And please, Lord, through it all, be at my side.
Thank you. Now Nancy Cook will be reading the poem One by Cheryl Sawyer in the memory of all who have perished on that fateful day.
Thank you. As the soot and dirt and ash rained down, we became one color. As we carried each other down the stairs of the burning building, we became one class. As we lit candles of waiting and hope, we became one generation. As the firefighters and police officers fought their way into the inferno, we became one gender. As we fell to our knees in prayer for strength, we became one faith. As we whispered or shouted words of encouragement, we spoke one language. As we gave our blood in lines a mile long, we became one body. As we mourned together the great loss, we became one family. As we cried tears of grief and loss, we became one soul. As we retell with pride of the sacrifices of our heroes, we became one people. We are one color, one class, one generation, one gender, one faith, one language, one body, one family, one soul, one people. We are the power of one. We are the United States of America.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce a few speakers for some parting words. State Representative Jim Acero.
Good morning. Today marks the 20th anniversary of that fateful day in 2001 when events in New York City, Arlington, Virginia, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania would change the United States of America forever. That dark day, when nearly 3,000 Americans would perish in unthinkable ways, when buildings we thought would last forever would fall in hours, when the center of our military might, the Pentagon, would be struck, and when everyday passengers on an airplane would become American heroes. That tragic day would ultimately lead to 2 decades of war in the Middle East, where thousands of brave American men and women who answered their nation's call to service would sacrifice their lives, and thousands more would be left permanently injured, many with physical and mental effects which will last a lifetime. With the recent withdrawal from Afghanistan, the war has finally come to an end. Even in the closing days of our withdrawal, our military heroes have continued to sacrifice for our nation's safety. With the recent death of 13 more service members and the injuring of many others. Today, Massachusetts' own Sergeant Yohani Rosario Picardo of Lawrence, a United States Marine, is returning home to her final resting place, killed in the suicide bombing outside of Kabul airport on August 26th. With the conclusion of active military operations in Afghanistan, the battle against terrorism will not end. The lessons of 9/11 teaches that we must be ever vigilant and learn to address the challenges of those who seek to do us harm. On 9/11, the Westford community was directly affected with the loss of 2 of our very own citizens, Susan McKay and James Hayden, who were on the airplanes that crashed into the World Trade Center. Susan McKay was 44 years old and aboard American Airlines Flight 11 when it crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. She left behind a husband, Doug, and 2 children, Matthew, 14 years old at the time, and Lauren, 9 years old. James Hayden was 47 years old and aboard United States Air Flight 175 when it crashed into the south tower of the World Trade Center. He left behind a wife, Elizabeth, and 2 teenage children, Elizabeth 19 and John 17. He was married to his wife for nearly 25 years. Today, 2 decades after 9/11, we remain grateful to those courageous men and women who put themselves in harm's way on that fateful day. When our first responders, police, firefighters, sacrificed their own lives to help people they never met and that they never knew. These brave men and women were the first in and led our efforts following these devastating attacks, and were then followed by our uniformed brothers and sisters in our armed forces, who took up arms against the perpetrators around the world. With us today are our Westford first responders, who continue to work to keep us safe each and every day. Can we please have a round of applause for Westford's finest? September 11, 2001 is a day in the history of our nation that should never be forgotten. The Westford 9/11 monument before us, that includes part of the World Trade Center, recovered from the wreckage of the towers, serves as a permanent reminder of those who perished in these senseless acts of violence. And I would like to thank Westford firefighter David Christiana for his dedication in creating this memorial to honor those who lost in 9/11. And Nancy Cook and the Westford Remembrance Committee for your efforts to help David realize his vision for the monument. 20 years may seem like a long time, but for those families of the victims left behind, their loss, their pain have not yet receded. Never could they have thought on that particular September morning they would be seeing their father or mother, sister or brother, son or daughter for the very last time. Never be given that final chance to say goodbye or embrace their loved one just one last time. With this solemn fact, we must be mindful that no words or condolences or acts of remembrance can ever fully heal or erase the pain of their loss. Here in Westford, across Massachusetts, and across the United States, we will never forget the lives taken on that day and the many who have passed from health effects and the physical and psychological trauma on that day 2 decades ago. May God bless you and your families, all those precious souls who were lost on September 11, 2001, both those in the direct attacks and those courageous and brave individuals who responded and those who went to war to keep us safe. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, we have our select board chair, Andrea Perna Sweet.
Thank you. 9/11/2001, a day that all of us who were alive remember exactly where we were and what we were doing. It was a sparkling late summer morning, much like today, cloudless, the sky a vivid blue. And as we here in Westford have done every year since then, we gather today on this 20th anniversary of 9/11 in remembrance and gratitude to honor and celebrate the lives of almost 3,000 people who perished that day 20 years ago, including 2 of our own residents, Susan McKay and James Hayden, and to honor the thousands more who since that day have died or suffered from illnesses attributed to the toxic exposures they suffered and saw that day. 9/11 saw this country confront one of its darkest days. Towers crumbled, black smoke billowed out of the Pentagon, and airplane wreckage was strewn across a field in Pennsylvania. But it was also a day in which we saw incredible acts of heroism and bravery. Rescuers who ran towards danger doing what they were trained to do without hesitation, despite insurmountable odds. Firefighters who charged upstairs with no thought for their own safety. Passengers on an airplane. Citizens, ordinary citizens like you and I, storming a cockpit. These individuals, they define the meaning of courage and heroism. On that day, within a span of a few hours, the world as we knew it changed forever. Our war, our country's war on terrorism, began that day. A war that started with an act of terrorism, killing close to 3,000 people, that saw 7,000 men and women die in military campaigns waged after 9/11, including Sergeant William Wodowitz, whose family for years has been and is a part of our fire department, and that ended just weeks ago with another act of terrorism, killing 13 of America's service members. Whatever you may think about the wars, whatever your political party or belief is, no one can doubt the courage, the bravery, and the ultimate sacrifice these men and women gave for their country. So as we reflect on this 20th anniversary of 9/11, what do we want to remember? What do we want to tell a whole generation whose only knowledge of 9/11 will be what we pass down to them? Here's what I want to pass down. Here's what I want to tell the children who are standing here today, whose only memory and knowledge will be from us. I want to tell you about the courageous and valiant men and women who without hesitation walked into a maelstrom of fire and terror. I want to tell you how in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we came together as a country in a way we have not since. Kindness. I want to tell you about the countless acts of kindness and compassion we showed one another. Strangers reaching out to one another. I want to encourage all of you to remember to treat one another with kindness, something that now seems to have been lost. I want to tell you that an act of kindness, no matter how small, a gesture, a smile, a word, a pat on the back, will impact the recipient of that act far beyond the small effort it took you to perform it. I want to teach you that in the face of the evil of 9/11, the true spirit of 9/11 is love, compassion, and sacrifice. I want to remind you of the sanctity of life. I want to tell you on that dark day, this country did not give in to fear. We faced the terror, we faced the tragedy and the unspeakable loss with strength and resilience. We gather here this morning in sorrow and in remembrance, but we also gather to recognize the courage and the valor of all who responded, to honor the heroes of that day, and to reaffirm our commitment to never forget them or their families. We gather to demonstrate that out of destruction, despair, and ruin came resolve, resilience, and hope. We gather here today to show that freedom, liberty, and justice cannot be snuffed out. We gather here today, as we do every year, because we here in Westford never forget, to honor the memory of loved ones lost, to recognize and pay tribute to our public safety officials and first responders for all you do to keep us safe, and to say to our public safety officials and responders, as inadequate as it may sound, thank you one and all. May you all be safe and may you all be well, and may we never forget.
Thank you, Andrea. At this time, firefighter David Christiana will sound the alarm bell, the last call.
Reset. Up.
As we bring today's service to a close, I would like to introduce Westford local vocals who have prepared 2 patriotic songs to sing today.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties of all the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriots' dream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Hills of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. Let music swell the breeze, and ring from all the trees sweet freedom's song. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breathe partake, let rocks their silence break, the sound prolong.
Thank you so much. Turn that back on. Thank you so much. This completes this morning's ceremony, but I would like to mention a few other things happening in town. The Westford Museum is also open, I believe, from 11 to 2. I might be incorrect on the end time. The J.B. Fletcher Library does have an exhibit of 9/11 peace cranes. They will be on display above the rear entrance. And also tonight, there will be a candlelight vigil at 7 p.m. on the Common. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you to all the participants that came together to make today possible. And all public safety personnel may return to service. Thank you.